Now, these horrible hard borders between the states have affected a lot of people when it comes to medical treatment, as we know, and work. The other issue that's been really badly hit right around the country has been education. A lot of kids travel across borders to school daily or to boarding school. Let's catch up with one of those issues, a school that's been hard hit by all of this, and it is Fairholme College in Toowoomba in Queensland. The principal is Dr Linda Evans. Thanks for joining us. Linda, you're not far over the Queensland border at Toowoomba, I suppose. Tell us how many students you have who either travel or board from New South Wales.
Of about 180 boarders currently, 33 of those travel from New South Wales.
And tell us about the problems that have been created by the hard border. I know you've written passionately to Anastasia Palaszczuk, the Queensland Premier, a number of times, to tell us about what problems you're facing and what you'd like the government to do.
I would like reasonableness around border crossing. So most of these girls are travelling home to properties. They live when they're at home in self-isolation as it is. They are safer than anyone else in Queensland, in Australia almost. And yet they are so close to being in the border bubble, but they aren't close enough. And that means they can't see their families. It means a rising amount of anxiety that's being felt not just by the girls, but also by their parents.
So under the current rules, if they were to go home for holidays to visit their parents, they would have to go into isolation when they return to Queensland, even though they're only travelling 60 or 70 k's into New South Wales, and even though there's no infections in the area.
That's right. If you were to remove our state borders and just look at a map of Australia, our students live in the safest part, or one of the safest parts of Australia.
And how is it affecting your students in terms of their study, in terms of their social well-being?
There is just, as I said, a rising anxiety amongst them. They don't know where the finish line is. They don't know what's going to happen, and it's hard to give them hope.
Well, if you could stay there, Linda, I want to duck down south of the border and catch up with David Horn, who's a farmer in Warialda in New South Wales. David, thanks for joining us. You've got two girls up at Fairholme College. Tell us about the problems this is creating for your family.
We haven't seen our girls for 3.5 weeks, which is not a great length of time. But because we can't bring them home for the holidays under the current rules, we're facing, from now until November to see them. One of our girls in grade 12 who's got, final exams coming up and needs to come home, to regenerate, relax and get ready mentally as much as anything.
David, I just mentioned we're seeing some pictures on screen here of other students. These are not your daughters, but other students who are signing, putting messages on Facebook supporting their fellow students and calling for changes. But, David, tell us the name of your daughter doing Year 12. I mean, that must be particularly challenging and worrying. And what about your other daughter as well?
Georgina is our girl in grade 12, and she's not doing too badly. And then we've got a girl in grade 8 who really struggled at the first part mentally to get her head round, not having any access from her parents. And I guess we'd appeal to the Chief Medical Officer in Queensland and the Premier and the Minister to, base their decisions on science. As Dr Evans said, there's been no COVID in this country. As you can see behind me, it's relatively wide open spaces, fresh air. The risk of our girls coming home and spending their holidays here with us, they'll interact with absolutely no one. We'll make sure that they do the right thing.
So
and they can return to school.
David, you just want your daughters to come to your farm, their home. It's only a few kilometres outside the bubble. You want to be able to hug them, have them at home for some family meals for a couple of weeks, be there for Father's Day, perhaps, and not leave the farm and then go back to the boarding school across the border. How could anybody possibly disapprove of that?
Well, we find that a hard question to answer, don't we? And I mean, I'd go back to the science of it. If they want to stand there and beat the drum and tell us that they're doing it for scientific reasons, then there is no COVID in our district. There hasn't been. Then scientifically, it's a no-brainer to open it up and give us access to our kids and everyone else who's in the same situation. It just seems absolutely, ridiculous to me that no one can make a reasonable decision. It's not, there's no danger involved with it. There's no risk for Queensland. I find it, astounding that it's such a black and white rule that's not based on any science at all.
Linda, you must be at your wits' end. What help are you getting from other politicians? Surely you can get this sorted. Surely someone can help you out and sort this.
That would be wonderful, Chris. We've certainly spoken with our local politicians who are very supportive. Probably our greatest concern is that if our girls do go home for the holidays and come back again, that they're being asked to self-isolate within the boarding house. I don't know anyone who's returned from overseas who's asked a teenager to be in a room on their own for 2 weeks without any human contact. And yet that's what we're being asked to do within our boarding schools here.
Well, thanks for joining us, Linda and David. I appreciate it, and good luck with that.
Thank you.
Chris. Thanks for your
There's
effort.
Linda Evans there and David Horn. What a ridiculous situation. Anastasia Palaszczuk's just got to sort this stuff out. Real people, real families, real hardship, and just for the sake of looking tough, as David said there, look at the science. There's no risk here whatsoever. Gee, it makes me angry. Real people are suffering real hardship because of this sort of stuff.